next instalment of this collaboration between Property Tribes and leasehold expert Bernie Wales, where we are answering leasehold FAQs from the property investor perspective. And Bernie, one of the questions that comes up from time to time on Property Tribes is landlords feel that their management company is not doing a good job. They can be hard to communicate with, and these kind of issues. So I guess when you're doing due diligence on a prospective, investment acquisition, and it's a leasehold flat, then surely you're going to want to do some due diligence on the management company, see what kind of reputation they have, because I think we're both aware that there are a few management companies out there that have quite a notorious reputation. So how can landlords ascertain whether the block is being managed appropriately?
Well, I suppose the first thing to do is literally use your eyes and go around and have a look and see what there is to see. Is there disrepair? Is there untidiness? Or is it Kew Gardens and Buckingham Palace? Get your own opinion about that block and how it looks. Then I suppose the next step would be to speak to residents and other leaseholders, people who are there, and see what their thoughts are. They will have been living with the good and the bad for a long time, and they'll know whether, for example, repairs are done quickly when they report them, or whether they are expensive or not done at all, whatever it is. That's a good source of just, doorstepping people as they come out of the block. Ask them. Also, maybe ask local estate agents and letting agents, probably letting agents, because they'll be involved more in terms of long term, and get some general opinions there. You could download my leasehold information checklist from my website, whether you're looking at a new purchase or every 5 years or so as a buy-to-let landlord. I would suggest you do a review of each flat. So go through the whole process again and review it afresh. So in addition to sort of getting all of that information, looking at the service charges, getting the service charge accounts and seeing whether it's affordable and that's in line with what is there, low service charges, not much in the way of repair, may be fine. High service charges, Buckingham Palace, may also be fine. It depends on what you want. But also look at, are there major works to do, or when were they last done? When was the exterior last painted? When's it due to be painted? Are the hallways nice brand new paint, or are they going to need to be painted? What about the roof? What about the lifts? All of those sort of costly things that come along periodically. Find out about each one of those possible projects and then ask, well, is there any money put aside for that? Are there reserves for a new lift? Are there reserves for exterior decorating, etc.? And that's obviously going to affect whether you buy. If there's a project next year and there are no reserves, you may want to look elsewhere. On the other hand, if something's looking a little bit run down now, but there are reserves to pay for that, well, maybe buy in now at a cheaper price. The works will get done. There is money to pay for it. And then in 2 years' time, remortgage maybe, because the place is looking all shiny and wonderful. So there's a number of things on there to go and find out about. And also, I suppose, particularly buy-to-let landlords ought to have safety in mind because of their tenants. Look at the last fire health and safety risk assessment report. It's going to be, 30 to 50 pages long, probably. Not an exciting read. So, if you're an insomniac, it's a really good thing to go read. But look at that. What issues were highlighted there? Are there any particular risks that crop up? And then when you're looking at the building, check to see whether those particular risks have been dealt with. If they have, then great, somebody's got that in mind, and you as a buy-to-let landlord can have a bit of confidence that your tenants are going to be safe. Because if your tenants aren't safe, they're going to sue you, not the management company. So, you know, you've got to cover your own rear end. Sorry, I nearly said something else there and made you blush. So yes, there's a whole load of things. And I have a checklist on my website that you can download. You can go through each of those subjects one by one and a whole load more. And I would suggest, don't just do that when you're looking to buy. Also, every 5 years or so, review every single one of your buy-to-let flats and look at it all afresh.
That is really good advice, Bernie. I noticed you mentioned lifts. I had a block, it was a new build block, and the lift was broken all the time, and it really did cause a lot of issues. So I think it's very good advice to check the lifts and ask a resident if there have been any issues with the lifts breaking down. The other thing I think you touched on as well was the communal areas. You don't want to see loads of bikes and kiddies' toys blocking up these areas. And I think the other thing, also with tenant security in mind, is if it's a gated development, you want to check that the barrier works, ask if that's been breaking down a lot, because that can obviously cause an issue. And also check the door securities. Are the doors locking properly, or can people just push their way in, and all these kind of things. And as you say, Bernie, I think the best thing to do is go to the block and just try and talk to people as they're entering and exiting, and just get their view on what it's like to actually live there. And if you do happen to speak to a leaseholder, you can also say, well, you know, what are the management company like? Do they communicate well? And are they helpful and proactive? So these are all good, really simple things to do, aren't they?
They are, yes. And look whether the managing agent, look them up on the ARMA website, the Association of Residential Managing Agents. See if they are an ARMA member. That will generally mean that they're better than the rogues out there. And also Google who that managing agent is. You know, don't believe everything you see on the internet, but if you get a whole load of negative reviews of a particular managing agent, it's going to tell a different story, even if that is not entirely true, compared to one where you Google and you get a whole load of good stuff. So, you know, don't believe every word, but you can get a flavor for whether that's a good managing agent or it isn't. And then you can ask further questions, you know.
Well, that's excellent advice, Bernie. And I've had leasehold flats since 2004, and I've had management companies that have been really great to deal with and very easy to deal with. And I've had other management companies that have been very aggressive in their communication and hard to deal with and virtually impenetrable. They don't have a phone number. You have to do everything online. So these are the kind of things to look out for. Thank you, Bernie, for joining me on this instalment, and do download Bernie's leasehold checklist. We can put a link to that underneath this video, and Bernie and I will see you on the next instalment.